Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland.
And from the left, I'm David Jones.
Tonight we welcome Harris County Republican Chair Jared Woodfill and his counterpart, Harris County Democratic Chair Jerry Bernberg.
Both lawyers in our community and longtime political activists, we have to say.
And you also have to tell the folks that these are elected positions, but they don't pay anything.
Oh, is that right?
That's right. You know that very well, don't you?
Okay, well, listen, let's start off this way. 2008, Jared, I think you will agree that it was basically a wipeout of Jerry's team. Can you tell us whether or not that will happen again, or have you arrested the decline of the Republican Party?
Well, of course, 2008 was a very challenging year for Republicans, not just in Harris County, but all across the country. We saw a national downdraft that actually impacted Harris County. And thank God we did. There was not a countywide sweep. We were able to hold 3 of the 6 non-judicial countywide races, but we lost some very fine judges. What's encouraging for me right now is that I'm seeing a whole new level of energy. Of course, President Obama didn't have a record to run on, but over the past 7-8 months, we've seen a country that's been radically transformed, whether that be cap and trade, whether it be Obamacare, a $787 billion stimulus package that does anything but stimulate the economy, is really mobilizing, energizing our base. And we didn't see that going into 2008. We've had town halls all throughout Harris County, record attendances, and people are fired up, they're motivated, and they're ready to work. For us, that bodes well for 2010. Now it's our function is to get those people plugged in and channeled into the party apparatus, making sure they're working for good Republican candidates, and to make sure
you have bragging rights, Mr. Bernberg. You have bragging rights now? Finally?
The bragging rights we have are there's some terrific Democrats who are now serving both on the bench and in countywide elected offices. But hey, I'm not sitting here declaring that Harris County is blue, decidedly, thoroughly, and forever. We've clearly, we're in the red zone, but we still got our work to do in 2010 to make sure that we carry through with what we started in 2008.
As a follow-up, Jerry, looking at the national polls of where the parties stand, the Democrats have fallen. Obama was, of course, almost, his ratings were off the charts when he took over because the country was very hopeful, breath of fresh air, and clearly he's very intelligent. Though I would, of course, concur with Jared, it's been a rocky 8 months. But the polls indicate that the voters are deserting the Democrats. They're not necessarily joining the Republicans. They're becoming independents. So what is going on with the political nature of the country?
Well, first of all, you're talking about national polls. I haven't seen any Harris County polls other than, for example, Dr. Kleinberg's polls here in Harris County, which indicate that more people, significantly more people, self-identify as Democrats now than identify themselves as Republicans. Look, there have been demographic changes in Harris County. There have been ideological changes in Harris County. As far as Harris County is concerned, I don't see this movement that you're describing nationally, if it in fact is happening nationally. Jared talked about the high levels of energy that he's been seeing. I think we've got a solution to our energy shortage problems, because if you got it amongst Republicans, I got it amongst Democrats, and we got plenty of energy to carry us through.
Right.
Well, you can't deny, Jared, and Gary wants to talk about all these national stuff, but we're local hacks here, right. So let's continue to talk about the local.
Speak for yourself.
Scene. And last election, 2008, you had, your Republican side, you had some scandals that you were dealing with.
Sure.
Do you think those scandals are behind you? You now have Lycos, the DA, maybe she's a reformer. I do know that you went after a couple of judges.
Right.
And you have declared that you're in opposition to a judge who allegedly sent some racist emails. Now you got one that's indicted.
Well, we did, David, you're absolutely right. We did have some issues. And what I'm really proud of the party and Republicans locally for standing up when we saw those issues. Right is right and wrong is wrong, regardless of what your party affiliation is, your political affiliation is. And with respect to the DA, we saw a problem there, and we acted timely. As a result of the party standing up and showing bold leadership, we now have a district attorney named Pat Lycos, who's a Republican. I believe that those issues are dealt with, and I believe they're behind us. I believe now that you have some Democrats in countywide office that you're going to be probably having something similar happen on their side. I don't wish that for them, but when people are in office, inevitably there are some bad eggs. But the question is, how does a party respond to those individuals? Do they turn their head, turn a blind eye to it, or do they stand up to it and say it's wrong and you got to go?
Mr. Bernberg, I know you've got the county attorney now, you have the district clerk,
yeah.
And you have the sheriff.
Yes.
All right. We don't have a public defender in Harris County yet, as far as I can tell. The jail is still completely packed. And I know that there's some Democratic judges who are acting just like the Republicans they placed.
Or worse.
Or worse, is my humble opinion. So I could say to you, what does it matter whether or not we have Democrats or Republicans in office?
It has to do with core values. It has to do, by the way, with what with whether or not the entire judiciary fairly reflects the terrific diversity of the Harris County community. When people go to the courthouse, I think it's important for them to have the confidence in knowing that it is a courthouse that accurately reflects the life experiences of people who are the consumers of services down at the courthouse. And I believe the Democratic ticket across the board with high-quality judges reflects that. And by the way, the jobs that our county elected officials, Lauren Jackson in the district clerk's office, for example, have done, certainly Adrian in the sheriff's department and moving forward and progressing, and Vince Ryan and the things that he's undertaken in his office have been a remarkably good start, it seems to me. You were asking about scandals a moment ago. I hope that we're not running on scandals in 2010. I'm hoping we're running on positive agenda and positive accomplishments, and now we've got some Democrats that we can look at, some Republicans we can look at, and let the public decide.
And I agree with him on that. We don't wish scandals upon anyone, either party. But you do have to deal with them when it does happen, if it does happen. We also have some great folks at the countywide level. Judge Ed Emmett doing a fabulous job. Pat Lycos as DA doing a great job. And Leo Vasquez, our tax assessor collector, who took over for Paul Betancourt, is doing a fabulous job running that office. So we're proud of the countywide leadership we have right now.
Well, fortunately, I will confess we do not have as much experience as you do in the crisis management of dealing with scandals.
I want to focus on a thing you mentioned, Jerry, because you talked about the importance of the judiciary reflecting the community. And to be truthful, Harris County now there's no majority. Everyone's a minority.
Right.
Everybody. So, and you talked about quality judiciary. I just have one name that just happens to pop into my head. Vanessa Velasquez, Republican judge. Outstanding. One of the top-rated criminal court judges we have, Hispanic, and your party's recruited an Hispanic to run against her. Is that what we really want with our judiciary when we have high-quality people in that position, that they get challenged automatically? And by the way, that's regardless of party. That would go for your people, too.
First, we did not recruit an Hispanic or anybody else to run against her. What we did was, and all we did was to tell the public, we need good qualified candidates to come interview with us to make sure that you are quality candidates, and the ones that are out there now across the board are. And then we said to the candidates, y'all pick where you want to run. The Harris County Democratic Party did not slot any candidates in any position. We did not recruit any candidates for any position.
Okay.
What you see is
All right, so then the other question, if you have a high-quality judge, particularly a minority, because we still don't have enough minority judges on the bench, I would concede that. Is it really a good idea to challenge them, or should we let them just get reelected, regardless of party?
Let me talk a reality of what's going on in Harris County. In the November 2010, we will have 65 judicial positions on the ballot, countywide. That doesn't even count JPs. It doesn't count Supreme Court judges. Well, with 65 positions on the ballot, there is no way for any given candidate to break through and show why they're better than their opponent or not better than their opponent. And that, Gary, is the reality of what we're facing. What we're looking at is appealing to voters at a different level, and we're not going to be able to pick and choose and say, well, this is a good Democrat, this is a good Republican, this is a good Democrat, this is a good Republican. I personally have been on record for quite some time saying that the way we go about selecting judges, particularly in a county with that many positions on the ballot, is not a good system. But given what we have to deal with, then I think what you're going to have to appreciate and understand is it's not for the Democrats to say, no, you can't run in that position. That's a good judge, and we want to protect him or her. But to say, interested parties, show us that your credentials are justified being on the bench.
Wouldn't it be your obligation, though, especially if you respect Jerry's opinion, that the judiciary should look like the community, to recruit a few more minority applicants to the bench? Because we have 37 criminal court judges, and 3 of them, as I know, are either black or Hispanic. So that's a 90% white rate.
Well, I'm very proud of, though, the Republican Party in Texas history with respect to electing minorities. In fact, the Democrats were in control for 130 years. How many African Americans, Hispanics did they put into statewide office? 0. During our short time, in about 8 years, we put 8 African Americans and Hispanics into statewide offices around the state of Texas. That's something to be proud of. If you look at the judiciary, what we have right now, we have a very diverse judiciary in Harris County. First and foremost, we're looking for qualified people.
So you think quality matters more than just the the face on the bench?
Let's start with that. You've got to be qualified, first and foremost. It doesn't matter what your race is. You have to be qualified, period. There are qualified candidates in the African-American community, in the Hispanic community, in the Asian community, in all communities. And those are the individuals that we're looking to run for office at every level, not just the judiciary, David, but whether it be school board, whether it be a city council, whether it be a state rep. We're always looking for quality and qualified people first and foremost. And we believe that you can find them in every community. And I think you can find those people that share our party values in those communities too.
And let me say something complimentary, by the way, of my counterpart here. I believe that Jared Woodfield has, in fact, genuinely reached out to various minority communities, and by the way, specifically to the Hispanic community in Harris County, and for the right reasons. And I compliment you for that. Now, I think you got a tougher sell because the basic core values and principles of your party are not as attractive to African American community, frankly, to large segments of the Hispanic community and to other communities.
What message or issues are you talking about?
For example, comprehensive immigration reform. For example, children's health insurance programs. For example, for that matter, health insurance reform generally. And without trying to debate,
you just nationalized the election.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I misunderstood
you. You were Gary Paul.
Well, of course.
No. All I was saying is that he's got a tough job trying to recruit Hispanics and African Americans, though he's doing a commendable job of trying.
Let me address that because he makes a couple of very good points there. First and foremost, I think Republican values are Hispanic values, and Hispanic values are Republican values. But for too long, we as a Republican Party have not taken our winning message into these communities. We have not been proactive and aggressive in going into communities that have not traditionally voted Republican. I'm talking about the African American community, I'm talking about the Hispanic community, and to a certain extent, the Asian community. As a result of that, we have allowed the Democratic Party to define us in just the way, in just the manner that Jerry has described. And that's why it is so important that we as a Republican Party be aggressive and proactive in taking our message into these communities to tell them, no, we are not the party that Jerry just defined. We are a party of strong national defense, pro-family values, limited government. That's what we stand for, not what the Democratic Party has defined us as standing for. And that's what we're trying to do locally.
So is Leo Vasquez going to have an opponent in the Republican primary?
I don't believe he will.
But you never know.
Is County Judge Emmett going to have an opponent from the Democratic Party?
Absolutely.
Oh, he will.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. But that goes back to what you said.
We just made some news here.
Jerry and David, though. Ed Emmett has done a fabulous job. He is a county judge who has reached out to both sides. And when a hurricane struck, he performed admirably. Why would the Democrats want to run someone against a person who has performed very, very well? And I think you would agree with me, has done a good job as county judge.
One answer to that is mathematics. Arithmetic. Arithmetic. The arithmetic is that 3 Democrats on Commissioner's Court can do a lot more than one.
2.
Certainly than 2, or than one county judge. But I think that it is absolutely appropriate for there to be a Democratic candidate, a strong, viable Democratic opponent, to put out, here are my ideas, here are my thoughts, here's how I would run things differently than Judge Emmett does. Let the two of them discuss the issues, and then let the public decide.
Let's break
and I
news.
think that
let's break news, guys. Who's it going to be?
That news you're not going to get.
So in 2010, is it going to be defined by Barack Obama and his accomplishments or failures, or is it going to be an election that is about whether or not Hutchinson or Perry won a primary? That's what I'd like to know.
Let me address both those questions. First and foremost, I think now Barack Obama has a record, and that record is going to be attached to the Democratic Party. When he ran in 2008, he was really just a community organizer with not much of a record to run on. And so he was a new face, he was telegenetic, and people didn't know what he stood for, really. Now that he has delivered or tried to deliver on these promises that he made on the campaign trail, people are saying enough is enough. And so they're turning over to the Republican Party, and our agenda is being revitalized.
The polls actually show that Obama is still personally popular, but a lot of his issues and policies are not popular.
That's right.
Which I think is interesting in terms of how that all fits together. And, the interesting thing about nationalizing, as you all both understand, if the elections are nationalized, it can cut both ways. Politics, we're 13 months, 14 months away from November 2010. So in that time period, Obama could also rally and his popularity could go back up, or it could continue to decline.
And I think Jerry will agree with this. When you're talking about nationalizing a gubernatorial election, which essentially is a gubernatorial non-presidential year, usually it only reflects what is happening from the presidential position. In this case, it's a Democrat, so it's going to be real difficult for the Democrats to nationalize it from a Republican perspective, seeing that we don't have a Republican in the White House.
But the gubernatorial race will have an impact on the local election.
That's
Jerry,
exactly
right?
I think it will, but I don't know what that impact will be. And I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. By the way, first of all, with regard to the Obama effect, I reject the notion that the Obama effect was a very significant effect in Harris County in 2008. When you look at it on a precinct-by-precinct basis and area-by-area basis, what you find is the Obama folks did not devote any resources whatever to Harris County. In fact, they took resources from Harris County. We were left pretty much on our own, and that's exactly where we're going to be in 2010. But
you're discounting about $1 zillion of ads that everybody got to watch.
No, I'm
whether
not.
or not you want to say it's for Harris County or not.
No, as a matter of fact, when you look at the turnout throughout Harris County in the places that you would expect there to have been an increased turnout because Obama was, it's not there. It's not there. So I believe that Harris County was not a result of Obama being on the ticket, and it's not going to be affected one way or the other, much as I greatly admire President Obama and what he has done on virtually every issue, maybe on every issue. I do not think that is the key that is going to be running the Harris County results on either side in 2010.
Okay, I got to respond to that because I think it's extremely important. Let's talk about the Obama effect, and I think essentially what they had in 2008, we're going to have to our advantage in 2010. Let me take you back to the primary in 2008. We recall what was happening. As far as the Democrats were concerned, it could have gone either way as Texas went. And so you had two very strong machines in Obama and Hillary coming down here, spending a lot of money, organizing people, turning them out. They turned out 405,000 people. That's to be committed. Did a fabulous job turning out people in their primary. On our side, it was over for the most part. We turned out 170,000 people, which was a record primary turnout for us, but it paled in comparison to 405. And so that was 405 now self-identified Democrats that they could really were easy pickings for November. So the Obama effect and really the Hillary effect too did help them because of that primary. Now, in Harris County in 2010, we are going to have the exact opposite thing in our favor in that we're going to have Rick and Kay, two very well-funded machines, organized machines, turning out voters.
You can't have both.
That's right. But
one of them will lose,
right,
and there will be some disappointed people.
But the fact that the turnout, the primary, that's what I'm saying. The fact that the primary numbers will be huge, we will now have a very large base of self-identified Republicans. The goal is to then turn them out in November, like they did in 2008. But the whole point, Gary can address this better than I can because he's dealt with it for many years when he was chair, is to get people to come back together once you have a primary that could potentially be divisive. That's a part of the chair's
That's
role.
a big challenge,
Absolutely.
Jerry,
but
right?
and
that could go to play in the hands of the Democrats.
Actually, we happen to agree on some of the underlying structural things here. The legacy we have from the 2008 election is 410,000 self-identified Democrats.
Yeah.
We know their where they live. We know their telephone numbers. We know their names. By the way,
you turn them out again, that will
there's
be
another
helpful.
180,000 people who voted in November, who voted for Obama in November of 2008, who didn't participate, and through some various kind of computer modeling and so forth, we've been able to identify at least 60,000 of them that we can say to a 90% confidence level probably voted for Obama. So we got nearly 500,000 names and telephone numbers of folks. They got maybe 160, 170,000. They are not going to have another 160 or 170 from the Republican primary this time, however heated it is. And in fact, the Republican primary may very well produce the following result in Harris County in November 2010, and that is the people who get so passionate and energized about, for example, Rick Perry, are not going to be able to bring themselves to vote for that pro-choice liberal woman, and vice versa, if she's the nominee. Vice versa, those who supported Kay Bailey Hutchison are not going to be able to bring themselves to come to the polls.
At the same time, though, the problem and the fallacy with your thinking is during the past 8 months, you've lost a lot of those 410,000 people. A lot of those 410,000 people have said Obama. Lots of seniors you've lost. I know that because I hear from them every single time.
Look
at the polling. Look at the policies.
To begin with.
Oh, yeah, you had a lot of. In fact, a lot of of folks that were traditionally voted Republican, unfortunately, crossed over and voted for President Obama, who now say enough is enough. That's not what I bargained for, and I'm getting something totally different. And they're now going to vote over.
We know the doors to knock on and the phone calls tonight.
Here's the problem.
again.
Here's the problem for you both in 2010, if I may, real quick, Jared. You were the party of Palinites, Joe Wilson white guys, and tax cutters who think that the president is a socialist. I would call those morons. All right, you, Mr. Bernberg, have a party that does not have a candidate for governor that anyone will know, running either against a governor that's been reelected 2 or 3 times or a senator that's been elected 2 or 3 times. So tell me how you can compete.
I'll give you a couple of answers. One of them is it will likely be only about 4 or 5 months after a senatorial campaign, which will have produced kind of not even more than the spring training. Will have laid the groundwork. Will have built the infrastructure for grassroots turnout with two Democrats that folks do know, Bill White and John Sharp. That will build the momentum and get things going into the gubernatorial election. I continue to suggest to you that in this gubernatorial election, it is not going to be driven by who's what name, whether you recognize them or not. It is whether or not you are the type of citizen who goes and votes, and we can remind you to go to vote and do your civic duty. Now, I will also admit that traditionally the Republicans have the upper hand on that limited a measure, so we're going to have to work very hard.
You say Republicans are more likely to vote for good government as an abstraction than Democrats?
No, to vote, not to vote for good government, but to vote. I mean, that's why we have, I tell people the reason we have traffic jams in Houston on Saturdays, that's the Republicans driving around seeing if they're in an election somewhere.
That's right, I like that. But let me address that.
But we can do that because we start out with the resources of nearly a half a million names of people in Harris County who we know of who if we can get them to the polls, they'll vote for the Democrats.
Well, David, let me go back to what your question, because what Joe Wilson said, even though you may not like the way he conveyed that message, is what everybody was thinking. And those are the same folks that you see showing up in record numbers.
That the president is a liar?
Well, no, that the health care bill, Obamacare, is bad, and that what he was saying simply wasn't true in reality. And that's why you're seeing such a level of energy, enthusiasm. In D.C. recently, just a couple weeks ago, it didn't get any coverage. Even the town hall meetings we're seeing all over the country. The town hall meetings we're seeing here locally, where thousands are showing up and saying, enough is enough, and we're going to stand up.
Jared, that was the Tea Party, not the Republican Party.
No, but I'm talking about our town halls, Republican town halls, where we've had over 1,500 people show up.
So Al Green's had more than 1,000, and Sheila's had more than she wanted.
I think the difference here, though, is this, Jerry, is that in 2008, the Republican Party had an enthusiasm gap with the Democrats. Absolutely.
You're right.
Democrats were excited, motivated. It was a crusade to get Obama or Hillary elected. Absolutely. The Republicans, they were bored, they were tired, they were down on Bush. They didn't like this, they didn't like that. They had just squawking about everything. What Obama has been able to do, which is for the Republican Party probably couldn't have done for themselves, is re-energize the party.
Okay.
That's what he's done.
Well, we have a couple of minutes. Jerry, tell us whether or not there are going to be some surprises that people can look for in 2010. What are candidates that they should look for?
New faces that are going to be exciting.
Well, first, a good friend who tells me he who lives by the crystal ball needs to develop a good taste for shattered glass. But the answer, take a look at the Congressional District 10 race where Jack McDonald is running against Mike McCall, and they've got somebody else in the Republican primary there. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee has denominated that race as one of the 10 highest priority races for the Democrats, most likely Democratic takebacks in the nation.
They're already spending money here to
Austin, North Dakota,
and that's a very serious contest that could produce some very interesting results.
Obviously I completely disagree with respect to CD10. I mean, they had a banner year last time. They had a well-funded, well-known candidate running against Congressman McCall. Congressman McCall won handily. it's going to be very exciting to see what happens in our primary. And Gary has written extensively about this, and to see what happens.
Gary, right? I thought Gary just talked.
Yeah, no, he does that
too.
He writes, and it's going to be
That's because he doesn't read, that he didn't know you write.
And that's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, the poll numbers keep shifting every single time that we look at them, and there's a long time between now and March.
Are you not worried about being a fringe party of Palinists and Wilsonites?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you assume there's nothing wrong with Sarah Palin, and there's nothing wrong with Joe Wilson.
Is the president American?
Well, of course he's an American.
Is he a socialist?
His policies are socialist in nature, absolutely.
Then John Boehner, the minority leader, says he's not a socialist.
David, the two people,
we
John
want to get
Boehner
rid
and I
of him
might
too.
disagree.
He's not
but
conservative
Palin
enough.
and Joe Wilson speak for a very passionate group of folks in this party. People who are solid, strong conservatives, and their opinions need to be respected. They're people I admire and respect because they're individuals that come and work with us at the party every single day to register voters and to turn them out. And when people really belittle them by making fun of people that we admire, whether it be Sarah Palin or Joe Wilson, I mean, that's condescending. And obviously we don't appreciate that because we think the world of these folks. They're good, passionate, solid, conservative.
You don't even know
officials.
Joe Wilson.
Well, I don't know him personally, but I do like what he stands for.
He did apologize, by the way, Dave, for saying it publicly
Well,
during the speech. That's inappropriate. Everyone agrees.
I agree with
but
that. I agree.
Jared is
But the
right. It
message
did
is
reflect
right.
an opinion. Obamacare is just like it was with Hillary Care, has defined the Democrats in a
be
bad
their
way.
Waterloo.
And I will say this, though. It'll be our Waterloo, the Republicans, if we don't realize there is a health care crisis in this country, and we better get answers.
And that'll be the
Because
last
it's not going
words.
away.
Gary Pollan, as always. You can view tonight's show, along with a follow-up discussion, by visiting HoustonPBS.org. Look for Red, White, and Blue there. So check that out. And until next time, get informed and get active.